guys, we are recording, and apologies for, hope we didn't lose anyone.
Yeah.
Really sorry about that. We'll go a little bit over tonight. We were like, wow, I guess no one's joining. We can go make some popcorn and watch a movie. Luckily, 2 people joined by phone, and they said, yeah, it wouldn't let us in by video, so we joined by phone.
That made us realize we were doing something wrong.
All right, how do we stop Tom from presenting?
That looks pretty crazy.
Nope, hang on here.
Tom Helser, if you're listening, can you? Thank you.
Boy, why did that even let anyone present?
I'll look at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, apologies, everyone. We clearly, after doing this 4 times, we should have it down pat, but something happened this evening that was really unexpected. So, our apologies. As we have done in the past, we will put an open forum out for people to raise their hands. If they have a question that they'd like to ask, just go ahead and hit your hand up button. Then we'll use that as the cue to allow people to interact and talk with us or ask their questions. This is probably our final webinar before things close down on our campaign. So we have 4 days left in our campaign. It closes out Monday evening. I believe it's like, 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. But we wanted to give everyone a chance to get in and ask any final questions if they had questions, and do this last webinar at least, so we could see how things were going and what the pulse of things were with you, our followers out there, and our supporters. All right, let me see. Everyone said messages.
I already changed it.
Okay.
Got it.
All right.
We do have a raised hand.
Yep. Okay. All right. We'll start out with a little bit of background, just like before. We began Harmony in 2018 down in my basement, basically doing clean energy work and trying to see if we could turn something that was a hobby into a full-time career for me. It gradually sort of caught on YouTube as the main social media outlet, and then from there people were saying, look, you need to take this full-time. So that spawned our first crowdfunding event on WeFunder back in August of 2020 through March of 2021. We did our first campaign there, 187,000, and then our second one a year later for about 220,000. This fundraising round is for much more. We were looking to go for something that could take us to the next level, where we could move into production with the crowdfunding money that we raised from this. So as always, if we're getting into questions that we're not allowed to answer about the crowdfunding campaign, we'll just ask people to check out our crowdfunding site. My wife will put the link out there for you. That's on Start Engine. It is our 3rd crowdfunding round that we're doing right now, and there are 4 days left in this crowdfunding campaign. So with all that in mind, we will go ahead and open up the questions to, we'll first start with Kevin, since he was the first to raise his hand. So I'll lower your hand, Kevin, and open the mic to you.
Hi, Chris.
Hello.
Good evening. So I was hoping you could give us updates on some of the technical changes and updates you've been having with some of the folks from the university coming in and helping out to review where you're at. And if you could also provide us any additional technical updates on where you are with not only the wind turbine, but if there's been any status change and development on the generators.
So, okay, it sounds like you had a couple things there. How are we doing with the universities? Are there any updates with the universities, and how we're doing with the generator development?
Yep,
okay,
that sounds about right.
We just had a visit from Penn State. That was 2 days ago. No, yesterday they came. I'm like losing track. I'm losing track of my days, Kevin. Penn State came down from Berks campus, met with us. They have also, the week prior, did a video meeting with us. So there's a brand new team that is starting this semester to work on the water tank testing and get all of the clustering project pretty much going. There was some holdup with technical difficulties between the state of Pennsylvania and the funding office for Penn State that really kind of helped things up for a good 4 months. And for that 4 months, they weren't able to really begin any of their work. In a way, it was a blessing in disguise because it let us focus 100% of our attention with Bucknell. So Bucknell has received their unit back in January. Their unit was delivered to them, and they are moving forward with their project. They just sent us an update 2 or 3 days ago with video of the unit on their rooftop spinning, but we're not really allowed to reveal anything proprietary about they have to release their own data through the university channels, and then we would tie in and link to that data. It is moving forward. They are working on getting their testing apparatus hooked up, completed, tested, calibrated, and then they'll start doing the work that they want to throughout the next probably 4 or 5 months. And they've also spoken about possibly getting an extension on their project in case they need to go a little bit beyond the fall of this 2023 year. So Bucknell is moving forward. Penn State now kind of takes the lead in our partnerships because Bucknell is off and running, doing their thing. We'll provide help wherever necessary and guidance wherever necessary, but we can now focus 100% of our attention on Penn State as our project partnership progresses there. And they're going to be doing the water tank testing and the clustering effect testing. As far as our generator development, we have already started cutting parts and machining parts, 3D printing parts, reaching out to different vendors. We've been reaching out to 4 or 5 different vendors for steel laminates and bobbins and coil wire and so forth for the internal parts to the generator. We're also cutting the CNC parts for the generator and then sending out parts to our partner Steel Design Manufacturing for the 2-dimensional water jet and laser cut parts for the generator. So that front is pretty much moving forward, all barrels firing or all cylinders firing. I would expect that we would have, once we get over a few of our technical issues with getting some of the pieces and parts in that we're waiting on, we would have our first iteration of the generator within, my hope would be 6 weeks here. The generator is a much smaller, benchtop item. We can put it together right on the bench. We don't need to worry about heavy parts and lifting and getting things. It's a much more concise, smaller project. So the generator is pretty exciting that we're finally moving forward with that. And now, of course, that we have the full team makes it even nicer because we can kind of delegate tasks out. Okay, I think I hit all 3 of your items there, Kevin.
That was good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we had another hand up. Jalapa Roy. Okay. How are you, Roy?
Jalapa Roy.
Hello there, Chris and Cheryl. Hola desde Mexico.
Hola.
I'm Roy Dudley, who's lived in Jalapa, Veracruz for the last 50 years. You guys know who I am by now. There's a saying, cuchillito de palo, which means a wooden knife. I just keep at it till I can cut, okay?
Okay.
I see you reached out to the Rotarians and several times in the States in different meetings at the Rotary clubs.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
I am a member of a fellowship called Rotary Means Business, which is very strong here in Mexico. I have mentioned this to the leaders of the fellowship. They are extremely interested in your whole project, as well as a fellow Rotarian who owns quite a few businesses here, especially vacation hotels on the coast on the Gulf of Mexico here. The problem is the financing too. This is something new for me, how a Mexican national can invest in a U.S. company. And especially with your deadline now, 4 days.
Right.
If you notice that the Mexican peso is doing very strongly against the U.S. dollar. And they're very interested in investing, but they have to go through a lot of processing there too. These are people who have funds, but they're not that disposable. And maybe not for this investment round, but for the near future, they're very, very, very interested in this. And I think it would be wonderful if you guys could have a webinar with them as soon as possible. It'll be a chance for you to reach out to all of Latin America. It's not only Mexico, but we've had people from the Caribbean, from the Dominican Republic, from Colombia, from Peru, from Argentina. And so this would be a chance for you in an hour seminar, have the presentation of your product, even though you still have a long R&D to go, guys, and we're 1,000% behind you. But you have a potential market here that's absolutely incredible. They are
Sure. Well, Roy, I would say two things here. One, please send us that information to contact them privately. We'll see if we can set something up, do a webinar with them or something like that. But as far as investing goes, Mexico should be totally fine investing in our Start Engine campaign. There are only two groups that cannot invest, and that would be the EU, actually,
Canada and UK.
UK, sorry, not the EU.
Nope.
All right, so Canada and the UK are the two regions that cannot invest in our Start Engine campaign. If you're not in Canada and you're not in the UK, then everywhere else is all right. So
the only thing I'm worried about, Chris, is we're starting kind of late. I mean, I'm just getting the word out now.
yeah,
But they want to get involved as soon as possible.
yeah, and it's unfortunate that we are done with the campaign in just 4 days. So there are no more extensions. There are no other ways we can, next month take funds or anything like that. And on top of that, that's why we're doing all the urgency messaging, because we do not plan on having another crowdfunding campaign. If we can do anything at all to help that not happen in the future, we're going to do it. Our goal would be to not have to do another crowdfunding raise. So I don't mean that to be a disappointing thing. It should be looked at as a great thing. I mean, that means the company is doing exactly what we said we were going to do. We're hitting the goals that we're trying to hit and the milestones we're trying to hit. So our goal would be to not raise further funds, to not have to dilute and, well, not dilute, that's the wrong word, to not have to give away any further equity for investment dollars. So all I can say is if they want to get in, they've got 4 days. We can't really change that at this point. And I'm sorry if that is unfortunate that some people would miss out.
One basic question: will these be considered stocks or are they, as far as investment? What status does let's say tomorrow I invest $1,000? What will that $1,000 represent?
Just like you would get stock in any other company that you buy on the stock market, except you're doing it in a pre-IPO state with a privately owned company here. So you get equity. You get shares in the company exactly like you would by buying stock on the stock market. It's just pre-IPO shares. You're getting preferred stock when you purchase from us.
All right, good. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
And I hope we can have that webinar as soon as possible.
Okay.
All
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
Roy.
you.
Thank you, Roy. Martha, I'm going to lower your hand and give the floor to Martha A.
Thank you. This is Martha in
Hi, Martha.
Pasadena, California.
It's nice and sunny where you're at.
We have a lovely day with rain coming tomorrow. So help me understand, since I'm not an electrician, how much energy does the generator one make?
So one unit right now, the flagship product that we're releasing with is a 400-watt turbine. What that means in the rated wind speed, which we are declaring as 25 miles an hour, our goal is that this unit would be producing 400 watts in a continual 25-mile-an-hour wind. Now, you might say, well, that's insane because wind doesn't blow at 25 miles an hour all the time. So obviously, you're going to be getting less than that if the wind is blowing 10 miles an hour or 15 miles an hour. But until we get the data from the work that we're doing with the universities, with our own testing, taking it out and doing testing at various locations, and then as we get the Mark III and the Mark IV units built in numbers, we're going to be putting them out in test locations. We'll be validating and we will be certifying the unit in the various conditions and wind speeds and publishing that data, sharing it openly. So right now, the best we can say to you, Martha, is just like any other turbine that you would buy from anywhere in the world, they're going to be rated in somewhere between like 22 to 30-mile-an-hour winds. That's usually the range that they rate turbines. We're picking 25 miles per hour because it's kind of middle of the road. And our goal is that this unit would be producing at least 400 watts in that 25-mile-an-hour wind. So that would offset however good the wind is at your property. As you make power throughout the day, you would be offsetting the electricity needs that you'd be pulling from your supplier. So it would just be reducing your electric bill by a little tiny bit each and every day. Just a small fraction, but it's a war of attrition against your electric bill. You know, those pennies add up, those dimes and nickels add up over the month. And in the end, if you have a good location with good wind, the return on your investment would be calculated by how much you have offset your electric bill throughout the year, and then year 2, year 3, year 4, until you have paid your unit off with savings on your electric bill. Does that help put it in perspective?
Yes, I think they're very cute, which is not a scientific thing to say.
Thank you.
Could I ask, so
Yes.
when the wind blows out where the farmland is, it picks up things like corn stalks. Is that a problem for later on?
Sure. We would be encouraging people to put them in an area that's pretty free of debris and leaves and sticks and things like that, or at least get them high enough off the ground that wouldn't be a problem. Corn stalks and things blow around usually, 2 or 3 feet off the ground, but not 8, 10, 12 feet off the ground. So you would want to put it up high enough that you're avoiding 90% or 80, 95, 98% of that stuff blowing into it. Yeah, it's just like anything that's sitting there capturing wind, things blow in the wind. So there's a chance that you could get some debris in it. As we begin doing our testing, we hope to have data on how much of an issue that would be or could be and things like that. But for the most part, we would ask you to be conscientious of where you're putting it so that you're not running into that problem. Just like you wouldn't put solar cells underneath trees and stuff like that. It just doesn't make sense to put the solar cells where the sun is going to be blocked. Well, same thing here. You don't want to put your wind turbine where it's going to be getting inundated with junk getting caught in it. You want to put it where it's, clear.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay.
We have questions
Sure.
coming in from chat. So we had a question from David. He says, you've had some discussion of roof-mounted units in future iterations. Remind me how much these weigh, and I'm wondering about the capacity of most roofs to absorb the stress from the weight of a unit, and whether average roofs should be able to handle the weight and the additional stress from high wind, even when fully furled.
Okay. Roof-mounted units are going to be something that we would work on after we're in production. So when we start working with Harmony and move it into low volume production, which is hopefully at the end of this year and early 2024, then we will be releasing base models that would be ground mounted initially. So you would put them on a concrete slab on the ground, maybe 10 feet off the ground so it doesn't whack anyone in the head. And then that would be the units that we certify for initially. As we get underwriting laboratory certification and we begin working with partners who have other certifications to do ground or house mounted, roof mounted, building mounted, things like that, we will get those kits and certifications to actually mount it appropriately on structures. But until we have those certifications, we're not going to just turn you loose and say, here, go ahead, mount it on your house. Because you do have to make sure that things are done correctly, reinforced properly, and that loads are spread out over a certain area. Now, to put it in perspective, this unit isn't that heavy. It's only about 100 pounds, and that includes the frame. So you're not talking, a full-size man up there working on your roof, walking around on your roof, is distributing 200 pounds of weight on a 1 square foot area, because wherever our 2 feet are standing, that's all of your weight on that little spot. So Harmony is only 100 pounds spread out over, 4 feet by a 4 foot by 4 foot area. So it's a much wider area, much less load per. So I don't think loading from a weight standpoint is going to be any kind of issue at all. What will be an issue is the side loads that would be introduced from the strong winds and the gusting and things like that. So that's where we need to be much more careful with ensuring that it can take the side loads. So I don't think that the thrust loads or the vertical loads are going to be an issue, but rather making sure that the kits have the proper side loading reinforcement.
So part of the partnerships we'll be looking for are partnering with structural engineers who have a better understanding of how all that works. You know, we only know so much and we recognize that.
Sure.
So we will be inviting those communications and help from those types of people, because we recognize that's a very serious issue and could be very serious concern, and it needs to be addressed properly. So it is on our radar. One of the things that we know we need outside help with, and that we will seek that when we get into rooftop mounts. So
you're welcome, David. And it was a very good question, but we do not plan on just turning people loose with these things and saying, good luck, you know, good luck mounting it on your home or your roof or whatever. No, we plan on rolling things out initially to people who have done this before, who have the experience and expertise and know how to put them up, to gather our initial data and help get the initial units out there and start getting them in numbers in residential setups. But then as we move from there and grow organically, we will be partnering with many, many different groups to do the proper installations and get them tied into your home's electric properly. Okay.
So oddly, we had corn stalks come up in Martha's question, and we have a corn farmer here on our call. Go figure. Jerry, thank you for your comment. Corn stalks don't blow unless it's 40 miles an hour or higher. So thank you for that, Jerry.
Good to know.
Didn't know we had a corn farmer in here.
Thank you, Jerry. All right, we have a few other people putting their hands up. David Schrift, I'll go ahead and lower your hand and give you the floor.
Yeah, hey guys. First, let me just say I wish you guys the best of luck with your endeavor. I really hope this works out and is successful, obviously. I guess I have
where are you calling from, David?
I'm calling from South Carolina.
Okay.
I live on a lake, which oddly enough is pretty windy.
Nothing bad about it.
Yeah. I guess I had a two-part question. One, I was, obviously as I follow kind of a lot of the legislation that's being passed down in certain states, California, New York, a lot of states and other countries are moving towards like a net zero kind of like laws where, states have to, new buildings and whatnot have to completely offset their carbon footprint. And I think most of the time that gets brought up in the context of solar, but obviously most likely to get to net zero for any building, it's going to involve more, more things, whether it's rooftop solar or window solar or otherwise. So I was curious how you guys are thinking about, or maybe what conversations you've had about getting your technology when almost mandated by certain municipalities or states as part of that solution. Because obviously, if you have mandates from cities that you have to do this,
right,
that would be kind of a big deal for widespread adoption.
Sure, it would be a good thing for harmony.
And then yes, definitely. And then my second part question was maybe you could touch on what conversations or input you have on distributing your products internationally with other countries, and what interest maybe you've already experienced in that aspect.
All right, so the first thing is we plan on working with municipalities and helping to, we've already had many different organizations and groups that would be working at the city level, at the township level, and contacting us about legislation and green initiatives in their community. Also tribal, like up in Canada and things like that, the tribal nations and things have been contacting us about green communities. So we're very much in touch with these initiatives, these green endeavors, these green communities that are springing up all over the place, and we 100% support them. So all of that stuff that's happening, these what I would call paradigm shifts that are happening around the world, are playing into the exact scenario that we want to happen, because we want to help decentralize power around the world. The grid is held together by bubblegum and band-aids, and it's a dying thing that's already over 100 years old in many parts of the country. We need something better. We need something more reliable, and that solution is decentralized power. The one linchpin that we're missing right now, and it's right on the cusp of being there, is proper storage technology. So the electric vehicle market is pushing that forward at light speed right now with solid state batteries, supercapacitors, ultracapacitors, carbon zeolite batteries, sodium ion batteries, you name it, it's already being developed. And we are this close to having commercialization of some amazing technology when it comes to energy storage. It's like Moore's law with computer and technology, how it shrinks every 10 years. It's, you know, the square root of whatever size it was before. And it's like a times 10 in shrinking size-wise, but a times 10 in space that it can store. The same thing is going to be happening with power storage and battery storage technology. So we are hoping to capitalize on that with Harmony and tie it into all kinds of distributed power and decentralized power solutions around the world, not just here in the US, but around the world. So that segues into your other question, which is these other areas, these other groups, you know, other countries, how we're in touch with them and how we're looking to work with them. Many developing and third world countries would be prime candidates for this technology to be deployed readily, because they don't even have the infrastructure, or if they have some, it's very poor infrastructure for distributing power throughout their nation, throughout their region. Harmony and decentralized power distribution would be perfect for these situations, because they don't even have to bother with putting up telephone poles and power lines and substations and everything like that. It could just literally be small little communities making their own power. And that is what we would hope to play right into, that sort of new era of decentralized and distributed power generation around the world, David.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We've had
I saw them. A whole bunch of questions.
Yep, we have. We'll do Don's questions, and then we can
Okay.
toggle between these. So Don had a couple questions. He's asking, how does your 400 watts produced compare to solar panels? And then do you have an approximate price for a home turbine? Just wondering how it would compare to solar, which is rather expensive.
Right. So Don, right now, because we're in the development, the R&D stage, it's very difficult for us to project numbers of what they would be in even low volume production, because the only numbers we can speak to are R&D development numbers. And everyone knows that when you're developing prototypes, things are like 10 times more expensive than when you're in production, because you're getting onesie twosie of things instead of 100 of them, 1,000 of them. So right now, the cost for us to produce a unit, even with the crazy metal prices and the crazy fabrication prices and things like that, our cost to produce a unit, one unit, not making 10 of them at a time or 20 at a time, but just one at a time, is about $3,300 for us to make the unit ourselves. So our cost, and that includes the generator. We would imagine that that price will come down greatly as we move into low volume production, because we're paying some crazy prices on some of the pieces and components that we're getting in there, and those prices will come down once we start getting them even in just low hundreds of units at a time. What that would translate to if we were pressed and someone, you know, told me, Chris, I need a number right now, right today, what could you sell these units for and still make a profit? Then I would have to say, right now we'd be looking at the $5,500 range per unit. But all of that is going to change when we move into production, and even low volume production, those numbers should get better. So it's on our pitch deck, it's in our literature right now, where we're saying $5,500 would be our expected price tag for these units, because it's the only numbers that we can work with right now. And we are not a company to inflate or puff ourselves up by making things sound better than they should be. We're just pretty much telling you straight out, this is what it costs us to make them now in prototype phase. They're about $3,300 for us to make them. So we'd be forced, if we had to say a number right now, it would be probably in the $5,500 range, a 40% markup on our cost to produce the units. How we would answer the question about comparing them to solar panels, I tell everyone the same thing. We aren't here to compete with solar. Competing with solar is ridiculous. You should have them both on your property. It'd be like, you know, why would you ignore one of the free resources, the natural resources that you would have available to you? If you've got both wind and solar coming to your home, you know, the sun shining on your house and the wind blowing past your house, why would you ignore one in lieu of just taking the other? So we are telling people the solution that needs to happen around the world is embracing renewables, both solar and wind, having them on your property with your own battery bank or capacitor bank, whatever. And then, as I've said in many of our other webinars and described in other videos, having this solution where you've got your wind, your solar, a backup generator, and then you can even stay in a downstream only configuration tied to the grid for that emergency little boost when it's needed. But these type of systems would be what we're helping to partner with and promote as we go forward. An integrated system with solar, probably thin film solar. I'd love for you to pick Harmony Turbines for your wind solutions, and then a good battery bank or capacitor bank to store that power for a day or 2 days worth of power, tied into a backup generator for emergencies when you don't have solar and wind available. So all of these things are coming, and we're looking to partner with the groups. We're already in talks with these groups about how those solutions will work. Okay. I think we pretty much answered everything there for Don. So hopefully that hit what you were after, Don. Do we want to do one more question and then we'll take hands again?
Sure.
Okay. I'm not sure how to say this name. Smile Earthling.
All right. What is your target market and what is the base price range, which we already talked about? Yep. I'm not sure about this question. As a generator, any battery capacitor backup when UL certified?
All right, so we've already talked about base price and a little bit of an explanation there. A generator, as a generator, any battery or capacitor backup. So this is a source of power plugging into your home, as we have been recommending all along. I don't recommend grid tie inverters. I think they're a scam. I think they're a sham. I think they're a terrible idea, because you're just giving the power company a way to sell your power for a penny on the dollar, and then they're turning right around and selling it for 15, 16 times what they're paying you for. So you're just a small, tiny micro generator for them. So I say, don't do grid tie ever. It's pointless. Downstream only, just like most homes are already wired downstream. You can receive power from the grid, but you do not feed back to the grid. So in this scenario, Earthling, basically you would have a battery or capacitor backup, and it wouldn't be backup, it would be the primary source of storing power in your home, and then you would run your home off of inverters in your home. So everything would be running off of your battery and capacitor bank. Your solar and your wind would tie into that and dump into it directly, and then you would run your house off of inverters that are powered by your capacitor and battery bank. And then your generator, a backup generator is what I would call it, would kick in if your power gets to a dangerous level, like say 30% capacity in your battery bank. Then that generator, a small generator, say a 2,000 or 3,000, 4,000 watt generator, something you can easily go out and buy at Harbor Freight or at Lowe's or Home Depot, you could kick that on and top you back up to a comfortable 50% level. Then that generator could be shut off. So its job would only ever be to fill your battery bank up when you're at a dangerous level, and that would be it. It would never be trying to satisfy peak load in your home or anything like that. Your battery bank with your proper sized inverters would handle all of the energy needs of your home.
And part of the other question was, what is our target market? Initially, our 400 watt units are intended for home backyard use. That's the fit that we see. And we will eventually, after we get these out into production and out into the field and tested more, we'll be starting to look at smaller units that can be used in the boating coastal areas or RV recreational areas, you know, something a little bit smaller that fits those needs a little bit better. We'll be looking at different materials that will fit the coastal areas better, like smaller with different materials to handle the salt. And so there's a couple different variations that are immediately on our radar. And while these can be scaled up to bigger sizes, Harmony itself, our shop, doesn't anticipate doing larger sizes ourselves. Our shop isn't going to be able to accommodate that, but we will be licensing and working with other places that have the huge facilities and the means to handle large product. You know, we'll be working with them to work on the larger sizes.
And also larger quantities. So we've got a bunch of companies already contacting us about making smaller units and offering different colors, different material properties and things like that. So these units that would be smaller, which would be, you know, perhaps 20 or 30% smaller than the 400-watt unit, would be suitable for putting on a boat or putting on a yacht or putting on a camper, an RV, or just taking out camping with you and setting it up on the hilltop where your campsite's set up, things like that. So we would not be catering to all these different types of turbines. We would just be focusing on the 400-watt kind of flagship product as we move forward, but we will be licensing heavily out to the groups that are looking to do these different sizes, different colors, different material options, and things like that. So we will be working with any and all viable candidates for those various options to make sure that the product is out there and available for you. Okay.
Let's get the hand that was raised a while back.
Jerry, I'll go ahead and lower your hand and let you have the floor. And where are you calling from, Jerry?
Jerry's from the cornfield.
What made you say that?
Because he's the corn farmer.
Oh, okay. Jerry, can you find the mute button on at the bottom of your screen and unmute yourself? I see you're trying to talk now.
But we don't hear anything.
Yeah. Jerry, if you want to try messing with your mic a little bit, we'll certainly circle back to you. Okay. We'll come back to Jerry as soon as he gets his microphone fixed there. All right, let's see if we had any other questions come into chat. So Scott was just adding to something I was saying where, you know, solar is producing during the daytime only or daylight only, but wind can potentially produce 24 hours a day in areas that have good wind. And Scott, you're absolutely right. So that is one of the huge advantages with the the potential for wind power to produce 24 hours a day or many, many more hours a day beyond what solar can produce. Okay. Let's see.
Want me to read it?
No, I'm going to go back to, you can read that one in a second. We just had a hand go up. You're going to have to help me with your name here. Arfura, I'll go ahead and
Afaraha.
Say again?
Afaraha.
Afaraha, okay. And where are you
How are
calling
you?
from?
Calling from Boulder, Colorado today.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you. I do a lot of traveling. I was wondering if your system will be using any sort of gearing system. I guess the easiest way to describe it would be like a derailleur and cassette on the back of a bicycle, like to increase the wattage or the power output.
So the gearing in Harmony is only going to be in the furling mechanism itself. There is no gearing between the turbine and the revolutions on the turbine shaft and the generator itself. They're a one-to-one direct coupled unit, which is one of the beautiful things about the marriage between our turbine and our generator. They're purpose-built for the very, very low RPMs that will be coming off of our turbines, because even in a 25-mile-an-hour wind, we're only looking at 200 to 250 RPMs with Harmony. Much, much, much lower, like 6 times, 8 times, 12 times lower RPM than what the propeller turbines produce. So our generator is going to be purpose-built for our turbine RPMs. And as we start getting into releasing more information on that, you'll be able to see how the performance of it is and how it really, it's kind of a beautiful dance as we start looking at the way the platters with we have a patent on our axial flux generator and the ability for those platters that have the magnets to move away from the coils and eliminate startup cogging. So that's one of the beautiful things that literally doesn't exist in the world today. We're the first to patent it. We're going to be the first to produce generators of this type, and they'll be direct coupled to our turbines. No gearing needed, no idler gear, or like you were saying on a bicycle, how you have that the gear ratio on the back and the derailleur that can go from all the way from one gear up to, I think it's like 6 gears on the back and 2 on the front for a 12-speed brake, things like that. You won't need any.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, very clear. I like that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, let's go to a few questions that we had come in, if you have any ready.
Yes. So David says, I've wondered whether there might be circumstances I'm not familiar with where 2 homes in a residential area could share a unit placed between them. Practically, I imagine the location would be along the property line between backyards in a neighborhood where each home having a separate unit is not practical. Just asking if there might be circumstances where this would make sense in areas where homes are already storing solar energy in home batteries.
I've never heard of neighbors sharing battery banks and solar panels and things like that. I mean, sure, it's certainly possible to do that. There's nothing from a technical standpoint that would prevent you from doing that, but I would be kind of greedy. If I paid for a solar panel or a wind turbine, and especially a cool Harmony turbine to be on my property, I think I'd want all of the power coming from that to be dumping into my battery bank. Yes, you could absolutely wire it up however you wanted, and with the right company and the right person who understood what you wanted to do. Sure, sharing that power generating capacity between 2 homes, no problem there. I mean, that's what small municipal installations will be doing anyway, but they might be doing it with a 25 kilowatt unit or a 10 kilowatt unit or two 10 kilowatt units, deployed for a small community of homes and things like that. They're sharing the power that's being produced by 1 or 2 or 3 units. So absolutely, you'll be able to do that. The practicality of it would be you'd have to find an electrician to help you wire it up to do that. It's from a technical standpoint, it's not a big deal to do it. It's just the fact that many people would not think of doing that. So that's all.
Okay, so going back to when you were talking about grid tie inverters and when you're sending energy back to the grid, Daniel had a comment here. He said, in our case, the electric co-op pays us the same price per kilowatt that we have to buy it for.
Okay, Daniel, you're in a very progressive area. Kudos to you, and that is awesome that you live in an area that happens. We talk to dozens of people a month that are calling us saying they've got credits on their electric bill that they're never ever going to use. They get, in many cases, a lot of things we're hearing is people saying to us, they pay us a penny for each kilowatt hour that we produce, and then they turn right around and they're selling it for whatever, 17 cents per kilowatt hour, 18 cents per kilowatt hour. So if you have a cooperative that is forcing the power company to pay you the same price per kilowatt hour, you are the exception to the rule. And that's great. That's awesome. Your cooperative is doing a great job if they're doing that, but that's not the general consensus that we're hearing from all over the place. A lot of people are, getting these crazy solar installations on their roof that they don't own, and now they're having to still pay an electric bill every month because you're forced to buy your power from this company now that has the solar panels on your roof, and on top of it, any excess they make, this company is getting to sell at 15x, 16x, 17x increase on the money from the power that you produced. So I don't know, as things get crazier and crazier in this world, maybe we're going to see a lot of different cases. I'm against pretty much all of that anyway, and saying let's just decentralize, let's just get your own power generation on your own home, your own battery bank. Don't even bother with grid tie. But if in your case you have a good situation with your cooperative, that's awesome. Okay.
So we finally got the question from Jerry. He says, when do you expect mass production? I believe nearly all farmers would be very interested in installing them. Many farmers, as I do, have several locations with electric meters to place one.
Yeah, in fact, we just went out to an Amish farm today to pick up our worm gears. And that was a really, really cool. We're going to post pictures in our next update about that visit, but they have all kinds of equipment that's running off of generators and stuff on their property because they're not hooked into the grid. They were very, very interested when I was showing them the pictures of the worm gears that they're making going into our Harmony turbine units. They were fascinated. All the workers came over and they're all looking at my phone with me. And they would be right in line with what Jerry is talking about here, with farmers looking to produce power and help offset their energy needs. So yes, farmers and rural installations like that will be absolutely something we both support and are helping to, present to the world as a viable solution here. If you have enough properly balanced production on your property that you could offset 100% of your energy needs, then you could be literally off the grid, or essentially off the grid. People don't have to cut the cord to the grid. That's the cool part about the new system that I'm talking about, where you can use the grid to kind of sip power whenever you're getting a little dangerously low, and top you back from 40% back up to 50, and then that turns back off. So you're only pulling power maybe 5 or 6 times out of a month instead of 100% of the time. You're just pulling maybe a $10 or $15 power bill every month versus a $280 power bill every month. So a pretty cool situation in those cases.
So, but Jerry was asking when we'll be in mass production.
Well,
Or-
mass production is a loaded question. We hope to be in low volume production and starting to take our pre-orders for our first initial beta units at the end of this year. So Jerry, mass production would be, and that would have to be several years even later than that. But we're going to be partnering with groups that are going to start helping ramp up the numbers. So if you want a unit produced out of our shop, out of Harmony Turbine shop, that's going to start happening, I hope, by the end of this year, that we're going to start opening the floodgates a little bit and say, okay, we're going to take our first 50 orders from people and let people put their orders in at the end of this year. But then we're going to grow organically and help to slowly ramp our production up to comfortable levels within our facility. We did talk about the fact that we're moving publicly now, didn't we?
Yeah, they know
Okay.
that. Mhm.
We're moving in 2 months, guys. So 2 months, we are moving to a new facility. We have 10,000 square feet, or just under 10,000 square feet available to us, a big overhead 10-ton crane. They can literally back a tractor trailer up into our facility where we'll be able to load and unload supplies. It's beautiful. It's awesome. And the place where we're getting our 2-dimensional parts cut, water jet, and laser is just 100 feet behind us in the same building. So we don't even have to truck parts from one building across town to another building. It's all right under the same roof. So low volume production, the end of this year. Mass production, I don't know. That's going to be, as we work it out, we are going to
Probably
grow and
start working on those relationships
Yep.
later in 2024. As
Yep.
soon as we have a viable product that we are able to produce in our low volume production facility, that's when we can start talking to other places who can do the mass production for us.
Yeah.
So it'll happen organically. We expect that to begin mid-late 2024, probably, to have those conversations and start building those relationships and
right.
partnerships. So
Yeah, it's, a lot of people are a little bit, I will say, jaded or confused at how production works, because we're in a world where you press a button on your phone and 2 days later this magic box appears on your porch, and nobody understands the work that goes into actually making a product from scratch, developing it, figuring out all the bugs, working the bugs out, iterating and developing kits, just getting the recipe to order all the parts and the supply chain and the nuts and the bolts and the fasteners and the raw materials, and then machining those parts and, getting everything tweaked and worked out to a kit that you're happy with, and how that kit then goes together like a baking recipe. First you do this, then you screw these parts together, then you take that component and put it together with another subcomponent. And like, getting all that worked out, guys, takes time and effort. When you go to IKEA and you get a couch or a dresser, they have spent months or years putting that recipe together, cutting those parts just so, and getting the pieces and parts worked out so that they can put that together to be a functional unit for you. Harmony is that times 10. It's even much more complicated, much more precise. There's a lot that's going into it. You're not getting some off-the-shelf piece of junk from some other country. It's a quality. I mean, everyone that walks into our shop, we had someone in there today, and he was just standing there looking at it and just taking his finger and giving it a little shove, and like he's going, wow, this is absolutely, he said, it's one thing to see it on the screen on the computer, but he said to be standing in front of it, it is amazing to look at. And that's when we have people driving by, when we just have it outside for 15 minutes to get some video or do testing, people are absolutely astounded at what they're seeing. So you're not getting some piece of junk that comes in, you know, a little box and you kind of put it together and stick it on your roof and hope that you get some power out of it. You're getting a serious piece of equipment when you finally get what we're producing in our shop here. It's not a toy.
Mhm.
So.
All right. We have a raised hand.
Okay. David. Welcome, David. Where are you from?
I'm in Waverly, West Virginia.
Okay.
I guess my question is, once you start low volume production, are you going to sell only complete units, or would you possibly sell a generator separate since it's patented?
We will be definitely looking to license and then sell generators separately after a certain point. I'm not sure right in the beginning that we would do that, but it's, let's face it, our generator, if you really dig into the technology and look at the patent, could be retrofit into every single wind turbine in existence on the planet right now. You know, if we had them, if we had millions of them available, they could literally start putting them into existing wind turbines of all sizes and shapes, because they eliminate the whole startup cogging issue and use solid core materials in the core to allow for extremely high power density on the upper end. So yes, the short answer is we'll probably be spinning off an entirely separate revenue stream just from the generators alone to work with companies that are looking to improve or retrofit products. How we do that just has to be a careful dance. I don't want to be too quick and start releasing the rights to that stuff before we really build a name for ourselves and let people understand that these are Harmony turbine generators that would be going into the other units. So, you know, we've done a lot of work. We've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into making this product. We need to be the first to market with this technology, and then we'll start kind of opening up the floodgates and releasing it to the public more and more and more.
Okay, so a quick follow-up question to that.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned installing it in other turbines. Do you feel that the generator could also be applicable to hydro?
No, and here's why. Wind is the only application. If you sit down and you know, have a cup of coffee and just really noodle this for a while, wind is the only application that I can think of where you start out with next to nothing when it comes to torque.
Right.
Every other application, I mean, hydro is 1,000 times more dense than air. So even a small flow of water has a tremendous amount of power in it.
Correct.
Gasoline, diesel, steam turbines, hydroelectric, nuclear, all these things start with a massive amount of torque and punch and power. They don't need the low startup cogging solutions that our generator offers. And the real place where our generator will shine is in that application. So it's applicable to, I would say, the only thing I can think of is wind turbines, but it is eminently suited for that application. It is like the cream of the crop, the tip of the iceberg when it comes to being able to do something really, really well. That generator that we have patented is as any type of generator that I can think of, it would be the most perfect generator absolutely for wind turbine applications. So would it work in other applications? Absolutely. But you'd be wasting all of the expense, all of the really cool tech that goes into it. It would be wasted. It would be pointless, because what it does is so specialized for wind that it really wouldn't make much sense to put that in other applications. It's not worth it. The other applications would waste all of that cool tech that's in it.
Okay, that I appreciate that. It makes
Sure.
sense.
Okay. Thank you for the question, David. And did I ask where you're from?
Yes, Waverly, West Virginia.
Okay, my apologies.
Okay, so we have a question here. We've never gotten this one before.
Okay.
I don't think.
Should I be scared?
No, I think it's an interesting one. Is there any thought to having 2 or more generators attached to one turbine?
We've gotten this question a lot of times.
Really?
Yeah, people talk to me all.
I'm not always there.
They're talking about it, ganging multiple units on a single shaft and things like that. Okay.
Apparently I wasn't there.
Yes, you could do it. No, it wouldn't be worth it because we are going to be coupling that generator so that it is paired up properly with that turbine. So that turbine will be able to produce a set amount of torque, a set amount of RPMs and horsepower in a given wind speed. And that generator is going to be coupled right along with it to accept that and utilize that efficiently up to 100% of its potential. So if you put 2 generators on that shaft, then you're wasting. How do I describe it? It would be like, it wouldn't be worth doing that because the turbine itself would only be producing X amount of torque and horsepower, and you'd be then trying to spread that between 2 generators. So each generator would only be giving half of what they can give, and in the end, you'd only still be producing what that turbine can produce. You wouldn't be doubling your output because you have 2 generators on that shaft. It's like, just because you add a 3rd or a 4th or a 5th tire to your car, you're not going to go any faster. In the end, you're actually going to go slower because of losses. Your car isn't going to perform better or go faster or be more powerful because you put more tires on it that are touching the ground. It's still only giving out what that engine is producing. And in this case, the spinning turbine itself is producing the power. The generator is just converting that rotational shaft kinetic energy into electrical energy.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thanks for answering that.
You're welcome.
Actually never heard the
Lots
question
of-
or the answer.
Yeah, lots of people used to ask me
So
that
thanks
many
for asking
times.
that.
They would envision, I guess they were thinking of like, 20-foot tall turbines and having a whole bunch of generators, but it's kind of, there wouldn't be much point to doing it.
I learned
So.
something new today. Okay.
Cool.
All right. So we have a question for our expectation management as investors. How often will Harmony Turbines provide updates to investors? Biweekly, monthly, on what platform? YouTube, Harmony website?
Do you want to field that one?
Well,
I should have read it to you.
I was hoping to pass it off.
Okay.
So our intent is to update very regularly in a weekly, maybe bi-weekly format. We've actually just partnered with a social media content manager, Sarah. We're going to start working with her over these next couple weeks to work on content, and she's going to try to help us put things together.
Really cool young lady
Yeah.
with a lot
Yeah,
of
she's
energy.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
she's
excited.
So, so we recognize that we need to focus on developing everything.
Our technology.
Yeah, right. There's that. So we are bringing in a little bit of help to help us with the updates and trying to put meaningful video and content together for you as investors.
Yep.
And our goal is to have some information out there at least, well, weekly.
What
it
I
might go into bi-weekly
Yep.
stuff depending on what we have going on.
What I said to her was one video every 1 to 2 weeks.
Right.
So we expect her to be able to produce one video either on a 1 week or 2 week basis. And that might float around. It might not be a set, every week or every 2 weeks. It could float. So we're giving her that latitude.
And right now, YouTube is our largest community. That's where we put all of our video content. But alongside that, we also put things on Facebook and Instagram. We will continue putting stuff on WeFunder and Start Engine because those will continue to be platforms that we can update our investors there. And we have a newsletter
Yep.
that people can sign up for. So if you go to our webpage, there's a link there to sign up for our newsletter. So anytime we put an update out, it'll pretty much will blanket everything so that
Yeah.
everyone who follows us can see it. That's our goal here as
Yeah.
we get through our testing. And
Guys, one of the big things we've heard from so many investors is, I love Harmony Turbines updates. You guys are fantastic with your updates. Everyone that talks to us says we are knocking it out of the park with how much we talk about our product, the updates that we give, the quality of the updates that we give. So I think we're doing something right there, and I hope to continue that trend and make it even better by hiring Sarah here as she begins cutting her teeth on working with us. If it works out between she and us, then we will continue that relationship for a very long time, because she'll be helping to build our community over this year as we're doing our R&D, and those people that she's helping to bring on board and build enthusiasm with will turn into our customers. So there is, even though the crowdfunding campaign is done, there's still a very good reason to continue our updates and continue updating our community.
yeah, so, okay, we have one more question. Well, Thomas says he agrees our update.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay. And let's see, Jerry is asking, can you put 2 Harmony turbines onto 1 electric meter?
Sure, I wouldn't see why not. An electric meter, I would think you're talking about the meter that goes to the power company, and to do that, you could put anything on that power meter. If you're talking a power meter, it's a net metering situation, and you could have solar, you could have wind, you could have multiple solar panels, multiple wind turbines, and they go into your net metering solution, and then that meter will spin backwards if you're making more than you are taking in. But again, it's that whole icky thing that I try to avoid with the net metering. But yes, absolutely, you can have multiple turbines or multiple solar panels feeding into that one electric meter. If you have a net metering solution already on your house, yes, it'll be fine. Okay.
All right, so we have a question about the investments. You
Okay.
just mentioned WeFunder. And earlier, yes, I remember seeing the chat that Start Engine doesn't accept IRA investments. Is there an option of using WeFunder? And if yes, do you know if they accept IRA investment? So we are only raising on Start Engine. WeFunder was where we raised prior, and we have a set of investors there. That's why we update. We continue sending our updates via WeFunder.
Yep.
It's still an active platform for us as far as updating. But WeFunder is not where we're raising. We're just on Start Engine. So the only way that we take investments is through that site, and they have several methods of payments there, which you had already discovered didn't accept the one you were trying to put through.
Yeah, our crowdfunding ended on WeFunder back in March of 2022, and we have not done and do not plan on doing any further raises with any platform after this. So the only money being accepted right now for raising capital for, raising equity for Harmony Turbines is through our Start Engine campaign at this time. And that's just 4 more days, guys. So after that, then I'm really not anticipating needing to do any further raises. I would like to be done with the whole raising and crowdfunding. It's a bit of a chore. I'll just say that. It's great because it got us where we are. I can't say anything bad about it other than it is a ton of work. It's a ton of, it's a very difficult, challenging thing to do, and it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. So I'll be happy to be done with that and focusing for the next year on R&D and focusing on building Harmony, iterating, testing, improving, and getting our product really, really spot on. So being done with crowdfunding is a huge, putting a huge smile onto my face. It's kind of bittersweet because it's gotten us to where we are, but now it's coming to an end and we need to focus on doing the next task, which is getting through the R&D.
So we're a little past an hour here. We had one more comment from Smile Earthling. I see these everywhere on the side of buildings, roads, etc. I'm thinking of the unfurling wind turbine. I will be investing as soon as money is transferred to my bank account. Thank you, Smile, if that's what we may call you.
Sure.
And so I was wondering, that video that I made today,
Mhm.
that's going to be released shortly.
Yep.
Can we
Play
click
it
on
for
that?
sure.
It's already uploaded into your YouTube. So this is a little sneak peek
Sure.
into, people have often asked us, how much noise does Harmony make? How noisy is it? How quiet is it? And we finally have put something together to answer that question. So it's only 1.5 minutes long, I think.
Yep.
1:48. So I think he's going to share his screen here. If you can bear with us for a moment here. Yeah, that one.
All right, guys. So you should be seeing my screen, and I hope that it's going to share the volume too.
You might have to hit the volume control.
Okay. I'll pause this. So you can't hear the volume coming through?
Correct. Yeah, there's a button right down there at the bottom.
Besides settings there?
No, on your screen.
Yep.
The start, yeah, right there.
Oh, YouTube's volume control?
Huh.
No, because it should be passing the volume through.
Yeah, I wasn't hearing anything.
Yeah, Bob's shaking his head too.
Okay, so it wasn't passing the
no.
volume through.
Oh.
There's an option, I thought.
I bet if you play it through your speakers, we'll be able to hear it.
Okay, let me see here. I'm sorry, I thought you guys would be able to hear that.
Bugger.
Video, audio, push to
Google.
talk, call control. See, we were gonna do this on Zoom tonight, and
And I just messed things up. So.
no, it's okay.
All right. Well, I don't want to. So we'll be releasing this tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah, so we'll put the link here. I'm sorry.
It is listed or unlisted, so we can send the link to it.
You couldn't hear anything when that was playing, guys?
No, nothing at all.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, sorry about that. I thought it would play the video through there.
Do you want to copy the link?
Yep, I'm going to give you the link. So guys, you can go out there right at the end of this. Yeah, bugger. That would have been nice to let you guys see that.
Technical difficulties.
Let me see here. Stop presenting. I just want to see if I present the application, maybe. Tab. No, it's not going to do it.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry about that.
You get the first sneak peek though.
Yeah.
If you go to it now.
that link right there is going to be released on our YouTube channel, but it is quite literally Harmony when it is running. I was standing right up underneath it filming, and I was, these crazy people are contacting us and trolling, some trolls in YouTube and things like that, like, oh, it's probably squealing so loud you can, because we will play music and stuff over top of it a lot of times, but we were like, okay, fine, no music, no anything, we're just going to stand right under Harmony and let people hear it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty much 100% silent. It's you'll see for yourself.
Yeah.
So
all right, any other burning questions before we wrap this up? I think we're
a little bit beyond, but we were bad. Thank you, Bob. We were bad in getting it started. We were literally sitting there like, holy cow, this is our fourth one. We have 4 days to go. And there were like nobody. Well, no, then finally 2 people joined on the phone and they were like, hey guys, what's going on? We can't get in with video. And so then I closed it and reopened it, and then you were all sitting there waiting. So I'm sorry about that. That was really bad on our part, but
good
anyway.
Session nonetheless.
Yeah, well, thank you. So watch that video. You guys will what was the RPM of our video? When that wind was blowing, it was about a probably like gusting to 5 and 6 mile an hour winds, and I don't know, you'd have to count it. It's real time, it's not sped up, so you can just time it. It's probably like somewhere in the neighborhood of 45 RPM, I would guess. So you'll have to let me know once you guys time it with a stopwatch, but I would guess somewhere around the 45 RPM neighborhood it was spinning at in that 6 mile an hour wind. 45 mile an hour, or 40 RPM would be my guess in that 6 mile an hour wind. Okay. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
And everyone who is an investor, thank you so very much for your support. Everyone who's thinking about it, hopefully this helped to get you off the fence and help make your decision. We have had a lot of people in the shop over the past week and a half. It was crazy with visiting schools, visiting investors, people coming to just see what we're doing and looking to invest. So things are happening here at the end, and whether we hit our goal or not, we'll see. We'll see where that goes. It's kind of cool. And we'll see. Would you do a video at 25? Yes, but we can't control when the wind is 25 miles per hour, David. So literally we're going to be putting it in the back of our truck and doing testing with the furling and stuff like that. So we'll take it up to Chickies Rock and to other places around us where we have really good wind. So yes, we'll be, as soon as we get out there and start getting our generator attached to it and getting testing, this is the really juicy, amazing data and videos and updates that we can't wait to give you guys. So we're not going to be holding any of that back. We're not going to be hiding that or keeping it secret. That's going to be shared openly with you like we've done all along. So it'll be out there as soon as we get the video and the footage for it.
Mhm.
Let us know what you think of that new video for the Listen to the Whispers that my wife put together here today. And we'll be curious to see the feedback on that. So thank you, everyone. Thank you all for your support and your wonderful putting up with our technical difficulties here. So, all right, guys, have a good night.
See ya.